Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Wajat Ali, and I'm wearing a collared shirt.
I almost didn't recognize him, friend.
You did. Danielle's like, who this? How'd you get the StreamYard link?
And he looks rested. It's crazy.
She's like, bring back Waj, you imposter.
You imposter. Folks.
Danielle, blink twice if you need help.
Right, because I look like I'm in the witness protection program. We're all out of sorts today, friends, but you will rock with us. So look, it is another manic Monday in America.
Ibram says, wait one second. Ibram says he's unable to log into the link provided.
Okay, let's try this again. I will.
So as Danielle does this, folks, we have hopefully a really tasty show today. We have author Ibram Kendi, who is going to be joining us because of his fantastic new book. It's called Chain of Ideas. He's also, you know him from the book How to Be an Anti-Racist Historian on Race and White Supremacy in America. He is trying to log on. Worked for me. We'll figure it out. And then at 12:30, we have Abdul El-Sayed, who is running for Senate in the great state of Michigan. And it's a neck-and-neck race in Michigan between Haley Stevens, Mallory McMorrow, and Abdul El-Sayed. Abdul El-Sayed got into some news this week because Mallory McMorrow and a lot of Democrats went after him for doing a campaign stop next week with Hassan Piker. And Mallory McMorrow compared Hassan Piker to Nick Fuentes. So it's going to be a bit juicy. Let's see. And before Ibram comes on, we were just going to talk about No Kings 3. If you did attend No Kings 3, tell us in the comment section. Should be juicy, should be tasty. When we saw all those photos and those videos.
Quickly. I just put the link again in the private chat. I also sent it to Claire, but if you want to text it to him, then you can do that.
Got it.
All right, folks, thank you for dealing with us with our technical difficulties. Not technical difficulties, but, you know, it's Monday. So for those of you who did attend, well, here's what I'll say. While Waj is putting together and hopefully getting our guests on, here's what I will say. I felt heartened. One, I will say this. I don't do protests anymore. I don't attend them. It is for a number of safety reasons and for myself. And I also have issues nowadays with just very large crowds. So I do not. But as you all know, I do my best to promote all of that and to make sure that people have the information that they need, etc. I was encouraged by the number of people that came out. I was encouraged by what I saw in New York City. I was very excited by the energy. But like I say, I really hope that No Kings is not where people end. I hope that it's where they launch from, because showing up for a one-day protest is incredible. It gives you energy. It makes you feel like you're in community, but it is not your last stop. And so it is really, really important that people find out what they can do, where they are, so that we can actually move to a place of a national strike, which is what I feel will actually get this regime to move. Waj, your quick thoughts, and then we'll bring on Ibram.
Ibram says, did Ibram come on?
Yes, he's there. I see him.
Oh, great. Ibram's there. It's because he sent an email. Goes, I don't know how to, I don't have Facebook or YouTube. So I was about to.
I love that for him.
Yeah, I'm like, good for you, Ibram. You know, similarly, I try to avoid large crowds for a couple of reasons, safety reasons, but my son was a bit sick, so he was healing. So instead, what I did was I did what I could, and I joined Joanne Reed, Don Lemon, and Jim Acosta during their epic Sunday No Kings marathon. And it was just really comforting to see so many people come out. And, you know, this assumption that the people who are upset at Donald Trump are the woke. And let's just be honest, folks, when they say the woke, when they say DEI, who are they talking about? They're talking about us, people of color, right? But no, it's a lot of Grand Tifas, veterans, middle-aged whites, radicalized suburban white aunties, right? And I think they can no longer get away with this myth that even the Democrats promote, that allegedly there's a moderate, average, mythical unicorn voter, right, that we have to move to the right to placate. That's BS. I think the overwhelming majority of us are sick and tired of King's authoritarianism, ICE overreach, the oligarchy, the Epstein class raping us, and we want fighters who are willing to change the system. And more, as you see No Kings rally and see so many white folks come out, I think it shatters that myth that you and I have been trying to shatter for several years on Democracy-ish.
Yeah. So without further ado, very excited to bring on our guest today for Democracy-ish. We have, we're giving you a 1-2 punch today, which I really appreciate. So Waj, please introduce the famed historian, activist, anti-racism activist, and author, Ibram X. Kendi.
Ibram Kendi has a fantastic new book out called Chain of Ideas, The Origins of Our Authoritarian Age. I was very kind enough to be sent a copy. 500 pages, but about 150 pages of those are chock full of data, resources, links, because Ibram, and I say this as a compliment, goes full nerd. And you know him and you love him because of his 2 previous books, which are also excellent, Stamped from the Beginning, and How to Be an Anti-Racist, which literally melted the brains of the entire right wing. But Ibram is back undeterred. It's a fantastic book. And the just to get right into it, Ibram, can you tell us the central thesis of your book? Because it's something that Danielle and I have talked about for years on the show. And I'm so glad it's getting more mainstream, if you will, air and acceptance.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show, and sorry about the tech issues. The Chain of Ideas argues that what's known as Great Replacement theory, which we can understand as a political theory that suggests that there are these powerful, typically classed as progressive elites, who are enabling peoples of color to displace the lives and livelihoods and even electoral power of white people, who apparently now need authoritarian protection. That this political theory has become the most dominant political theory of our time. And it has allowed for the justification of authoritarianism in the United States and around the world, in which you have these politicians, typically funded by the super wealthy, trying to convince majority groups or even privileged groups that they're under attack, so that these authoritarians could say, I will be your protector, but in order to protect you, I need to take your rights and freedoms and establish dictatorial states.
You know, Ibram, welcome to Democracy-ish. It's so great to have you here with us. And I just want to dig into the replacement theory piece, because I think that it is a theory that is thrown around. The term is thrown around and we talk about it. But a lot of regular Americans who are not invested in politics in the way that that we are don't necessarily understand, how does regular Americans, how do they move from a place of waving the flag and going into Old Navy and getting flag, T-shirts that talk about freedom and, don't tread on their rights? How do they move, you think, from this place of, American and democracy being able to be duped into the fact that, like, you need authoritarianism in order to protect your whiteness? Uh-oh. Are we frozen? Waj, are you frozen?
I think there's a number of different ways, but to give one example, I think there's a number of different ways, but to give one example, if you are an everyday American, middle income or low income, chances are you have had to face, like the rest of us, the outgrowth of corporate restructuring, the outgrowth of super wealthy people changing policies that allow them to continuously hoard resources and wealth. Chances are you've had to face the Great Recession, or even more recently, the increase in inflation rates. So then when you struggle, or let's say you don't get that house you want, or that job that you desire, or that opportunity you desire, great replacement theorists are coming along and saying, well, you didn't get that because it is the primary form of racism in the United States today. And it's being carried out by these progressive elites who are allowing Black people and immigrants and Muslims to take your resources in the name of equality. But in actuality, they are not for the average American.
And the average American oftentimes does a lot of heavy lifting for white. And we're seeing something that is not just white folks, Ibram. This is it's winning over people of color. Like, white supremacy is so insidious that they got people of color thinking that they're white. And there was this recent Manhattan Institute poll. Folks, for those who don't know, Manhattan Institute is a far-right think tank. And Daniel will show you this poll, because this is stuck with me, because the replacement theory suggests that it's a cabal of nefarious Jews using Black people, brown people, and progressives to weaken and replace white folks, the average Americans. And now 54% of men in the GOP under 50, 54% folks, meet the definition of a Holocaust denier. Hispanic GOP, 77%, Black GOP, 66%, white GOP, 30%. If this is the future of the GOP and conservatives, Ibram, what does it say about the success of the replacement theory and how it's won over so many people of color as well?
I can remember when Donald Trump was giving his Republican National Convention speech in 2024. And in that speech, he specifically stated that immigrants were taking your jobs. And he specifically referred to African Americans and Hispanic Americans. And there have been other cases in which the replacers, or I should say the people being replaced, have been positioned as African Americans or Latino Americans, or Black men or Latino men who are apparently being replaced by Black women and Latino women. And so what happens with this theory is any group that is in any form of privilege, so whether you're a citizen, you're a man, you're white, you're a Christian, you are heterosexual, you're cisgender, then typically that group is being targeted as more or less being replaced. And so that's, of course, you have people of color who are not necessarily in a position of privilege when it comes to their race, but when it comes to their gender, their sexuality, their status, they could be in positions of be targeted.
Mm. One of the things too that I think is really, really interesting, and again, nefarious, and when I say interesting, is that at one point in time, at one point in history, there was a desire to conceal the level of racism, to conceal this association with the replacement theory, that there would be this desire by extremists to wear a mask in many ways, right? Whether literally or figuratively, to try and placate the public that they were mainstreamed. What we are seeing, though, with this regime is that the masks are off. The veil has been lifted. So much so to the point where you have reported late last week that Pete Hegseth is striking the names of 2 women and 2 Black men from a list of Army officers set to be promoted to 1-star general. There is absolutely no reason for him to no real reason outside of racism, outside of misogyny, to remove these decorated officers that have dedicated their life to defending what they believe are the values and principles of this country. What do you make of the overtness right, of the level of racism and misogyny that this regime shows? And is it a way to further normalize, right, this extremist behavior that they don't feel the need to hide?
So, I'm sure each of you remember when, after Obama's election, there was a particular talking point that stated that his election apparently demonstrated that racism against Black people was over. And what was
Post-racial America.
also happening at the time is exactly. And so time was one more mainstream narrative. There was a more fringe narrative that emerged at the same time. And that was that the election of one Black person to one office demonstrated that Black people had completely taken over the United States, and even some argued had taken over the world, and that they were going to then come and seek to dominate and displace white people in the way they imagine, in the way that white people, let's say, had dominated and displaced Black people. So that second narrative, it wasn't mainstream, but that narrative continued to grow and spread during Obama's presidency, to the point that by the time Donald Trump started to run for office in 2015, surveys showed that even among Republicans, the voters who were most likely to support Donald Trump were those who believed that white people were under attack, or white people were being discriminated against. And Donald Trump tapped into that growing great replacement theory, and more or less ran to the White House on it. And so while he's been in the White House the first time or the second time, he has to continue to distract his voters by making them believe he's protecting them by more or less taking Black people and women down from prominent positions, even as privately he's using the government and engaging in policies that are harming his base. So it's this huge distraction, and it's a distraction that's based on great replacement theory.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what bothers me immensely is there was a zombie theory of economic anxiety that corporate America and even Democrats and politicians and you know, gosh, the media said it's economic anxiety, and all the data showed is that the main reason, not the only reason, but the main reason why so many people went for Trump and specifically switched from Obama to Trump was because of cultural anxiety, which is essentially a manifestation of what you're saying, Ibram, is the replacement theory. America no longer looks like us. They are taking America away from us. And one of the greatest propagandists of the replacement theory and literal white nationalist talking points was Tucker Carlson. In fact, I remember when the New York Times did a survey of his show on Fox, they said it was probably one of the most racist shows on television. I also remember white nationalists, when they were interviewed, said, we don't need a TV show because we got Tucker. Yeah. Now you fast forward, Ibram, and I've been trying my best to warn folks about this, is that Tucker, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and a few of these folks who I've been following for a while, who believe in the replacement theory, who promoted the replacement theory, have moved to the left of the Democratic Party on Israel and war. And I tweeted this. Democratic leadership has no idea how many people are being won over by Tucker and MTG right now over Israel. No clue, none. They'll stick with Netanyahu and AIPAC even as it drags the party and American security down the toilet. I'm talking about aunties who have become radicalized on WhatsApp, Ibram. How dangerous is the threat of the Tuckers and MTGs, some of the biggest proponents of replacement theory, who have moved to the left on, say, two issues publicly, Israel and the economy, but still nonetheless are Trojan horsing that for their overall white Christian nationalist narrative?
Well, I think these are figures that recognize that in order for them to continue to mass manipulate the public, they have to maintain some sort of connection to what the public is caring about or thinking about. They have to establish some sort of trust with the public, and I think that strategically, I suspect this is what Carlson and MTG are doing. I would also add that Great Replacement theory was for a long time an anti-Semitic theory, and so I'm not actually surprised. Uh, it's interesting because you have a certain segment of Americans who are against supporting Israel because of its war crimes. You have a certain segment of Americans who are against supporting Israel because it's quote unquote, as it identifies itself, a Jewish state. And and so it'd be interesting to me, like from the standpoint of a Tucker Carlson, is he going after a particular segment of Americans who are who are truly, who are against Israel because it is a quote unquote Jewish state? At the same time, he's pushing Great Replacement theory, which is a theory that once positioned Jews as the internal enemies who are coming to destroy Nazis, who are coming to destroy Aryans, which then Nazis used as a justification to dangerous. Great Replacement theory is the most dangerous political theory of our time. It's justified genocides and wars and political violence all over the world. To me, no one can and should trust someone.
And I think.
Well, you said, Ibram, real quick, you at the most, you had this pregnant pause. You said no one should trust someone, and then it just glitched. What was the last point you made?
Said no one should trust anyone who is expressing Great Replacement theory. And in some of those same interviews where he was challenging the United States and Israel over the war, he was also pushing Great Replacement theory in the same, in the same segments.
One of the issues that we have, I think, and that is particularly on display with the war on Iran by Israel and the United States, is the difference in literacy rates keeps coming up, right? Like when you think about how uninformed the American public is, and the fact that only 54% of Americans read and comprehend at a 6th grade level versus those that are in Iranians who are at over 90% literacy rate. I wonder, Ibram, like when we think about don't trust those that push one theory, the replacement theory, and then also have this seemingly liberal view on from things from Israel to AI. I'm not sure Americans have the ability to hold two truths, at the same time. And so I'm curious as to how you think our lower literacy rates and just underdeveloped critical thinking plays into the fact that people like Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene can spout, multiple theories and facts, but it lands differently with the different audiences that they're trying to manipulate.
It does, and I also wonder whether the Tucker Carlsons and MTGs of the world are truly expressing a white nationalist theory, which is to say, in Chain of Ideas, I write about how most of these media commentators like a Tucker and others, who are pushing Great Replacement theory, truly think in transnational terms. So they think that the West in general, which they position as white, is being destroyed and overrun by immigrants, let's say from the global South or even African Americans. And I'm wondering if a Tucker Carlson rejects that more transnational conception and is essentially believing that the issue is this specific white nation being overrun. And I think it's hard for people, to your point, Danielle, to really, if you're not necessarily educated, if you're not given the tools to understand political nuance, if you're systematically, frankly, undereducated, if you're constantly facing forms of disinformation, which actually leads to, according to studies, you being less of a critical thinker, it's hard to resist this fire hose of disinformation, as I describe it in Chain of Ideas.
Ibram, I know you have to bounce. Let me ask one final question, and then Danielle can ask her final question. But quickly, in response to Tucker, I believe, following this, that Tucker is actually interested in what you call this intersectionality, right? Or I call the intersectionality of hate. He went and interviewed Orban, gave him a softball. He went and interviewed Putin. We saw exactly. Thank you so much, Danielle. We saw now Israel going right. Benjamin Netanyahu's son goes to Hungary last week, praises Orban. It's this alliance between Orban, Trump, Vance, Putin, who have all promoted the replacement theory. And again, for those who are paying attention, the basis of the replacement theory is anti-Semitism. But for Netanyahu, hey, that's okay. As long as I make alliances with fellow fascists, no problem. Let me go crush Zoran Mamdani and his wife for tweets instead. But I saw this last night on Axios, and I have to ask you about this. Insiders within the Democratic Party say, based upon the mood of the country, the last 10 years of Donald Trump, that the only way, Danielle, do we have that? The only way out is a white Christian male.
Yes,
Democrat.
hold on.
Some top Democrats are quietly debating a fraud question whether the party's best bet for winning back the presidency in 2028 is to nominate a straight white Christian man. Someone said, quote, Michelle said it has to be a white guy. I disagree, Ibram. But I want to ask you this question. Is the only way forward a straight white Christian man? Is that our savior?
Well, let's talk about what's happening in other countries. In other countries, you had the center-left parties who decided that the best way to defeat a party like AfD or a party like National Rally or Orban's party or these parties that mimic in many ways the Republican Party and that they're collectively pushing this great replacement theory is to adopt some of their elements. So that's how you have these parties calling for border security, or that we've gone too far on multiculturalism or anti-racism, or they try to prod out a straight cisgender white male. In each and every case, it's backfired. I've yet to find a case where it has actually worked. Because what happens is, specifically when they push some of the elements like border security, they're reinforcing that there's a problem with immigrants who are violent. And once you say to the general public that the problem that let's say the Republicans have exaggerated or created is actually true and is as bad as they say, the public is not going to look to you and your party to solve it, because the Republicans have argued that the Democratic Party created the problem. They constantly saying that the element of the powerful elite enabling the replacement is a critical element of great replacement theory. And in the case of the United States, that powerful elites is the Democratic Party. So I don't think it's actually going to be helpful for the Democratic Party to integrate some of the elements that the Republican Party has been pushing. I don't think it's best for the Democratic Party to discern a candidate based on that candidate's identity. I think it's better for the party to ensure that it recruits a candidate who could speak to the vast majority of Americans, who could strive to be anti-racist, who could push back against the sexism and homophobia and transphobia and xenophobia and build a coalition that way, if that person just happens to be straight and white and male, but it still has the capacity to energize the base of the Democratic Party while also pulling over other voters, then that's fine. But I don't think the focus should be on that type of candidate. And to me, that spells what literally other parties have done in other countries, and they've typically lost when they do that. And that's why you have people responding to that story saying the Democrats just really like to lose.
You know, and I'm not quite sure they're wrong. I'm just going to say I'm not quite sure that they're wrong. Ibram, we want to thank you so much for making the time for Democracy-ish. For our viewers, again, I want to remind you to pick up Chain of Ideas by Ibram that is out now. The Origins of Our Authoritarian Age. I think that it is an important read. It is a necessary read. And I appreciate you. Please, before you go, tell folks where they can continue to follow you and your work.
This is where we ask you to shamelessly promote yourself, basically.
Well, you can certainly follow me on my handles, Ibram XK. And you know, indeed, I was really excited to talk to each of you because, as each of you stated, you've been literally talking about the ideas that I write about in Chain of Ideas for a long time, and so I'm hoping more people will realize that, you know, in many ways, that this administration has been using the most extreme racist idea in order to galvanize votes and to build authoritarian states that are modeled after Hungary and Russia and El Salvador. And I'm just want to thank each of you for calling attention to this for years.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Come back anytime.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Good luck. It's a fantastic book. I got sent a free copy. It's one of the great gigs. And I've been reading through it, folks. Please pick it up. It just came out on hardcover. Thank you, Ibram, so much. And now we're going to switch over to Abdul El-Sayed. You know him, you love him. He's been on Democracy-ish on the Left Hook before. Abdul is running for Senate in the great state of Michigan. It is a three-way race. It is tied. It is Haley Stevens, Abdul El-Sayed, Mallory McMurrow. Abdul El-Sayed is an American physician, a former public health professor, government official. He was a politician who served from 2023 to 2025 as the director of Department of Health, Human and Veteran Services for Wayne County, Michigan. He also works out. Some would say he has the alpha male energy. He's got muscles. And Abdul, I want to get right into it. You are in the news, sir. I mean, it's not the Iran war. It's not, I don't know, a genocide. It's not income inequality. It's not the fact that our AHS, Health and Human Services, is run by a complete buffoon and measles is skyrocketing. Abdul, according to some corporate donors, the biggest scandal in America right now is that you are going to be co-hosting a rally in about a week with Hasan Piker. How dare you, sir? In fact, it's so bad that your colleague, the person, well, I know you all are running against each other, but a Democratic colleague, she's slamming you for campaigning with Hasan Piker. She compared Hasan Piker to Nick Fuentes, and she said, quote, "That is not somebody that you should be campaigning with at the moment when there's clearly a lot of pain and trauma across our state." Abdul, why are you causing trauma and pain?
You know, I've been a doctor my whole career, and all of my work has been about trying to put glasses on kids' faces and take on big corporate polluters and take on the system that is polluting our entire democracy with corporate and special interest money. That is a danger to a lot of folks who see a message that is getting out to the kind of folks who listen to Hasan's stream every single day, because it might mean that we upset the apple cart of the way that they are using our politics to deliver for the richest, most powerful people in our country. You look at somebody like A Third Way and their executive director paid and bought by corporate donors who, of course, want to launder old neoliberal ideas that have structurally destroyed so many people's lives. Now, ask yourself why people tune in to Hasan. It's because he is talking about a lot of the central issues that they feel in their daily lives. These are folks who feel locked out of our political system. They're watching as They cannot ever dream of affording a home. Their job barely pays them a minimum wage. They're probably strapped with debt from their college experience if they got to go to college in the first place. They're in a situation where they are worried about whether or not they're going to be able to afford a second bag of groceries. Many of them are locked out of the healthcare system. And if they're in healthcare or have healthcare at all, it comes with a $6,000 deductible that would put them into bankruptcy. We have been locked out of politics for far too long. People like Hassan have been talking to them, and God forbid that somebody like me wants to go do the same thing that, by the way, Vice President Harris did by inviting Hassan to the DNC to stream from the DNC. But it's because I have a message that is consistent with the challenges that people face, and they do not want to see my message connecting with people for whom my message could be extremely politically powerful, bringing these people back to our politics. And I'll just finish here on this note. At the end of the day, the Democratic Party, unfortunately, has become a party of schools. We're always showing people what they cannot have and should not fight for, telling them that they have to wait another 2 years and 4 years to be able to fight for the things that they need and deserve. It has made it so that a lot of people who are not structurally locked out of our politics are not paying attention in the first place. And they're trying to find other folks who are speaking to the challenges that they face. And look, going on a podcast or going on a platform doesn't mean that you agree with everything anybody's ever said. You know, at the end of the day, I don't agree with everything my own wife has ever said. She doesn't agree with everything I've ever said. At the end of the day, though, I want to be able to speak to the people on that platform. It's really important for me that we offer them a way back into our politics to be able to vote for a politics that gets money out of politics, put money back in your pocket, and pass Medicare for all. And I'm going to keep doing that because that's what being good at politics in the year of our Lord 2026 should mean, that you're going to try and build a coalition of people who actually want to live in a politics that works back for them.
You know, I appreciate that one. Hi, Abdul. It has been a very long time since I've seen this, since I've seen you. And it's wonderful to have you back. I want to talk for a minute about the double standard, right? The double standard that I feel and I see all the time, that it is okay, for instance, for a sitting member of Congress to tweet something so disgusting, so disrespectful with regard to Muslims and the Muslim faith, right? And not be censured, not even have Democrats come out and say that he should be censured, right? In the way that we saw Democrats show up and say that Representative Al Green should be censured for going after Donald Trump, that Rashida Tlaib should be censured, and you have Democrats again stick up for that. But when, and I just want to, briefly go back. This is why people come after and have come after Hassan Piker for the comments that he made with regard to 9/11. He wasn't a sitting member of Congress when he made those points. He was not somebody that was elected for and by the people. And so I'm curious as to your thoughts. And again, I couched this in what Toni Morrison said about racism. Racism is a distraction, and it forces you to constantly defend your humanity to those that purposefully don't want to see your humanity. So when you look at this double standard, do you feel like you consistently have to say, but what about this? But what about this? That then blocks you from actually getting your message out?
Yeah, Danielle, I really appreciate you highlighting that. But I'll be honest with you, it's not my job to defend myself. Honestly, I have been deeply blessed to have the opportunity to go to great schools and be able to serve in government. I think about my own grandmother who never got to go to school despite being the smartest, wisest person I've ever met. My job is to go and defend people who feel locked out of our politics, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So at the end of the day, whether there's a double standard against me, it's not really my concern. It's the double standard that is about all of these people who are turning to somebody like Hassan or turning to somebody like Joe Rogan and feel that the prim and proper political conversation has lost them, that we're not actually having conversations about their problems. They feel like politics is not a way forward to actually solve any of the challenges that they face, whether that's the inability to see a doctor or the inability to afford groceries or the worry that they're going to get locked out of the ability to be employed by new ways of automating them. All of that, those are the things that I'm running to take on. And so, people are going to be unfair to me. I understand that. I've been me my whole life. And at the end of the day, honestly, I've been really lucky. It's a lot of people for whom life has been so deeply unfair and our politics have been so deeply broken. They're my concern. I get to talk to those folks up and down my state. I've been in 90 cities, 300 public events. And most of the time, people don't show up to me to be like, hey, what are you going to do about this comment that Hassan Piker made? Or how are you going to shut down Joe Rogan's discourse? They're asking me about how you're going to make sure I don't have to get fleeced at the gas pump. How are you going to make sure that I can see a doctor if I get sick? How are you going to make sure I don't have to choose between my well-being and my financial well-being? Those are the questions that I'm interested in solving. And I think what has become such a threat to a lot of these folks who are so hot and bothered about the fact that we're campaigning with somebody who's speaking to those people is that they're afraid that we're actually speaking to those people. And they understand that by offering them a ramp back into our politics, because I am not going to use the bought and paid for talking points from the corporate PACs or AIPAC, because I'm just speaking truth about the issues that we face, that's become a profound threat to their system. They want to make sure that our politics do not represent real people so that they can continue to control our political system for the well-being of people whom it already benefits. And I'm a threat to that system. I'll continue to be a threat to that system. So it's not about me. It's about the people I'm trying to speak to. And I'm going to go where they are to have the conversation about what it looks like to unlock politics to actually make it work for all of us.
And said, it's not you, but it's about the people. And I think all of this is tied together because there is an egregious double standard that is not lost upon me, Muslims and Arabs and so many other people, that you are being hit for campaigning with Hassan Piker. But there's also another person who's campaigning with you, Summer Lee. They didn't mention Summer Lee. Another person is Bernie Sanders, who's campaigned with Hassan Piker or talked to him. They never got hit. AOC, she didn't get hit. Ro Khanna didn't get hit. Alyssa Slotkin and all the Democrats go on Bill Maher's show. You and I know, Abdul, for 2 decades, and even now, Bill Maher has said some of the most racist, nasty stuff against Muslims and Arabs, never even challenged by most of these Democrats. They didn't get hit. Gavin Newsom had Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon on his podcast with the Chummy Conversation. He didn't get hit. But who gets hit? Oh, Alyssa Slotkin also said, I don't know what Hassan Piker said, but I'm sure it's anti-Semitic, and she criticized you as well. She's a Michigander. I'm going to talk to you about this in 1 second, this quote she did. I want your take on the alpha male energy. Hilarious. But before we get to that, this is not lost upon us because they did this to Zoran Mamdani as well. Yep. Zoran had to apologize for chants that he never used. Specifically, Zoran Mamdani had to apologize for pro-Palestinian chants. And it is not lost upon us that it's fellow Democrats who are using your Musliminess, your Arabness, and the fact that you are very openly pro-Palestinian anti-genocide to make an example out of you and Zoran Mamdani. That's the double standard that I think is very clear, Abdul, is that you and Mamdani, by virtue of your Musliminess and your position on Palestine, are being made into an example for the rest of us. We're going to go after Mamdani, we're going to go after Abdul El-Sayed, and we're going to go after, let's be honest now, a majority of Americans who are against the genocide.
I'll tell you this, at the end of the day, I became a doctor because I want to take care of people. I care a lot about the pain that people face. And I think the frustration that a lot of these folks have is that I don't have a hierarchy of some people's pain matters more than other people's pain. I love and revere Judaism and the Jewish people, just like I love and revere Islam and the Muslim people, just like I love and revere people who are atheists and have no faith at all. I love people. It's the thing that got me into this work. It's the reason I continue to go forward. And if I've got to take a couple arrows for it because I love some people who everybody tells us that we actually ought to hate, then so be it. But I will say this, it's one thing to say that you can't go on Hassan Piker because he said some things that people don't like. And at the same time, to deny the existence of a genocide that killed 70,000 plus people. I don't even know what the numbers are right now. Right. To deny the humanity of 35,000 plus children who are murdered at the hands of our tax dollars. So, I'm going to keep talking about our universal humanity. And, because I'm Muslim, maybe some people are going to try and make associations about what I think. At the end of the day, hold me accountable for what I think and what I say. And what I think and I say is that I want to make sure that our money is being spent here to provide healthcare for our people here, to make sure that people have good schools here, rather than being spent to drop bombs on other people and their children over there, to destroy their schools over there, to destroy their hospitals over there. And if somehow that makes me somebody who's not consistent with my beliefs, show me how. But if you want to come from my character or you want to use old stereotypes about what some people think and believe, honestly, I don't have time for it. I'm a lot more focused on making sure that I can get healthcare for everybody through Medicare for all, that I can unlock our economy for people who feel locked out, who worry about being able to work the same job tomorrow that they worked yesterday who are worried about whether or not they can afford their groceries or their gas because of a dumbass war that a foreign interest has figured out how to trick our president into getting into, and the only thing he can do is get us further in. At the end of the day, if you like the way things are, I'm not your guy. If you don't, and you think, why the hell are we doing this with my tax dollars? Why the hell can't I afford my groceries? Why the hell does it cost so much to get gas? Why the hell can't I see a doctor? Then maybe I am. And I hope whether you tune into Hassan or you hate Hassan, whether you tune into Joe Rogan or hate Joe Rogan, whether you watch CNN or hate CNN, whether you don't watch any of it, that I hope that you'll listen to what I'm trying to say. Our system is not built for you. It's built for very rich people and the powerful and corporations. I'm trying to make sure it actually works for you. And I'm going to go everywhere and talk to anyone with whom I can share that message.
I think that for me, right, as somebody that has always spouted progressive ideals and believes wholeheartedly in them, I'm finding it really difficult these days to associate myself with Democrats, right? Like the establishment Democrats. And that this is an issue that I talk about on this show and other shows. Because when I hear the Alyssa Slotkins, right, who are talking about democratic messaging and the fact that we need to be more alpha and we just need to drop F-bombs and we need to speak to who's not being spoken to, and that's the folks that are in the middle. And I listen to her bullshit and I listen to it in contrast with what the polls are actually saying, which is that for the first time ever, more Americans are moving to the left with regard to their thoughts around Israel, because they're able to separate Judaism from Zionism, because they're able to see for the first time on their phones the genocide that the United States has been propping up through administrations. Because let us not get it twisted that it's only Trump. It was Biden. It has been Obama. It was Bush, right? It is all of these administrations that have had this very perverse idea of what democracy should look like. And so when you think now about where the country is at a time when you're running, for midterms and folks want to project to 2028, which I don't even think we'll get to, what do you make of this idea of the mythical middle and this idea that the people of the United States are just being radicalized by social media with regard to how our feelings are changing about Israel and the genocide that they are unleashing over Gaza and Lebanon?
I don't believe, and I've never believed in this sort of left-right divide in our politics. I think that is a model that is being foisted on people that doesn't really describe how people think about the world. I think for the most part, people have very different beliefs about very different things, and they don't model consistently about what you think is left or right. I think the real differentiation in our politics is more people who are locked out and the people who are doing the locking out. And I always want to be on the side of the people who are locked out against the people locking them out. Now, at the end of the day, the reason that too many Democrats do not talk about the genocide being perpetrated by our tax dollars is because there is a gigantic super PAC that moves its money in a bunch of different ways that all comes from this AIPAC thing. And AIPAC spends $100 million a cycle to make sure that Democrats or Republicans do not deviate on the question of whether or not our foreign policy perfectly aligns with the interests of the likes of Benjamin Netanyahu. It is the reason why Republicans took us into this war, and it's the reason why too many Democrats want you to think it's just about Donald Trump, even though Benjamin Netanyahu has been trying to get us to fight this war for the past 40 years. And now your tax dollars, to the tune of $2 billion a day, are being used to raise your gas prices. And all of this is supposed to be something that we cannot talk about. I'm so sorry. I don't want my tax dollars being wasted over there to kill people over there when I can't pay for my gas over here. And I'm worried about the fact that my kids' schools are just not up to par. I'm worried about the nature of our healthcare and whether or not we'll ever be able to afford it. Sorry, people think that somehow I care so much about the way our politics behaves abroad because of my ethnic identity or faith identity. No, it's because I'm from Michigan. And here in Michigan, we still got potholes in our roads. Here in Michigan, our literacy rates are tumbled because our public schools are underfunded. Here in Michigan, people got an average deductible of $4,500. Here in Michigan, our premiums went up 15%. Here in Michigan, our utility rates have increased faster than in 46 other states. Here in Michigan, they proposed 15 data center projects last year alone. And DTE, our main utility provider in Southeast Michigan, They just asked for a huge rate increase and then asked for another one like 3 days later. At the end of the day, we got responsibilities here in Michigan. So I want my tax dollars spent here in Michigan, not over there. So, I'm running for senator from Michigan, which includes Detroit and Bay City and Saginaw and Ishpeming and Three Rivers and Antrim County and Grand Rapids, like not Tel Aviv, not Jerusalem. And I just think that my tax dollars shouldn't be spent subsidizing apartheid and genocide over there when I got shit we got to take care of over here. It's not that hard. It really is not that hard. But here's the problem. Nobody says it because they're afraid that they're going to get huge amounts of money dropped on them by AIPAC to shut the F up. I just don't shut the F up. Like when I see people in pain, I don't shut the F up. Maybe that's my mistake. Maybe I'll never get elected to public office for that reason, but I sure as hell am not going to trade my integrity or my ability to talk about the problems that people face because I'm afraid I might lose a seat. At the end of the day, what are these seats for? What's the point of having one? So that somebody can tell you what you can say, you can't say. You can't actually solve the problems that you told everybody you wanted to solve. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not that guy, and I'm okay never being elected if it means that I can tell people the truth. So if that matters to you, I hope folks will support us. And if it doesn't, if you'd rather have your politicians lying to your face because they're afraid of organized money coming for them, then go ahead and keep voting the other way. But like at the end of the day, I am not going to stand by and watch this stuff happen. Watch my kids' future being mortgaged away to take away the futures of other kids. Like I'm just not going to do that. So, I'm going to keep doing me. I hope folks will support us. If what I'm saying matters to you, you can go to abdulforsenate.com and support. And I'll tell you this, in the last week, since everybody's tried to cook up this controversy, we've raised more online than we ever raised. So, people are good people. I see that every day when I travel across my state. They know bullshit when they see it. And they're sick and tired of being told not to believe their lying eyes. And people are voting with their pocketbook saying, look, man, if AIPAC is going to drop that much money on him, then I'm going to drop $5, $10 and make sure he's got the resources to thrive. And at the end of the day, I'm willing to take the arrows. I'm willing to take the hits in the face. My job is not to defend myself. My job is to defend people who are not being defended by the current system. I'm going to keep doing that.
I'm going to ask a quick final question on my end because I know you have to run. Hopefully, Danielle has time for a final question. But based on what you said, look at Illinois. $92 million were dropped in the Illinois Democratic primary just in the past 2 weeks. $22 million was dropped by AIPAC. But the $70 million that I'm paying attention to, that not enough people are paying attention to, is the pro-AI and pro-crypto money, Abdul, which is being spent like to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars on both sides of the aisle. And specifically now you've seen that they're openly saying, yeah, we're going to court Democrats. And as such, we're talking about OpenAI, we're talking about Palantir, we're talking about the Broligarchy, we're talking about the Epstein class, spending an ungodly amount of money now on Democrats. I believe this should be more in the forefront. I have to ask you, are you taking money from AI? Are you taking money from crypto? And your response, or perhaps your warning, because I'm making an assumption about you here, you're warning to Democrats who believe that they can change the system that needs transforming to help the average American who's struggling, especially in Michigan, if they can continue taking hundreds of millions of dollars from the very same supervillains who are the ones who are the architects of this system that is broken.
Yeah, I don't take any money from corporations. I never have. I never will. I'm the only person in my race, Democrat or Republican, who's not bought and sold that way, right? I try to have a very nuanced perspective about how these things work. I don't particularly like big banks, and I think the right form of crypto could be helpful. But like the way that I've seen it is Donald Trump building a crypto account so he can buy off and corrupt our entire politics. The way I'm seeing it is like a bunch of shit coins and pump and dump schemes. So to me, I'm going there to be able to write legislation to protect everyday people. So I don't ask crypto, I don't ask AI for their money. And chances are, because I've been so clear about what we need to do to regulate AI, whether it's the existential doom of AI potentially slipping human control or falling into the wrong hands, or it's the fact that we've watched data centers proliferate in ways that are potentially corrupting our infrastructure and raising our prices. I put out a terms of engagement around what we need to do to stand up to that I hope I can turn into legislation in the US Senate. Or it's the fact that I worry about whether or not AI is going to foundationally change the social contract because people are not going to be able to trade their human capital on a market to get money, which is like what we've always done in the past, because you've got corporations that are selling, AI bots to companies to try and automate out their entire workforce. I want to write legislation on all that, and I'm going to be out there working to get that done. So I don't ask any of these folks for the money. Chances are they're probably going to come and smack me, just like AI or AIPAC is going to come and smack me. But at the end of the day, the job is to stand up for people who are getting a raw deal because corporations are destroying the very infrastructure of our politics. They are using Citizens United to move tons and tons of their money to try and tell you who you can elect and who you can't. But here's the thing I'll tell you. I've been up and down my state. People are good. Like, they're just good people. They want a better deal. And what we're trying to do to get past all of the money that we know is going to get spent to take me out is to make sure people know who I actually am. And, I've been to 90 cities now, 300 public events, and folks know that, like, I've been around. It's not my first time running statewide in Michigan. I've been saying the same things. I got yelled at by a woman in church. She's like, you keep saying the same stuff. I'm like, look, if we get new problems, I'll start talking about new problems, but we just got the worst versions of the old problems. So I'm still talking about the same problems, and I'm consistent. And she was like, honey, you're right. You really are. I was like, I really am. So look, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to see the upside in this. I will tell you, watch, look, as an Arab guy, I got the weakest Arab guy beard you've ever seen. But AIPAC and AI corporations, all of them, for like 3 months this summer, are going to give me the beard of my dreams. I'm going to have the thickest beard you've ever seen. And I'm just going to turn down the noise. I'm going to pull my wife over and be like, baby, this is the... this is the anti-terrorist Arab beard. Yeah. Anyway,
it's a very safe beard. It's the safe is like, I'm the friendly Arab beard. I thought it was stylish.
It's the beard you put on. It's the beard you put on your teddy bear named Abdul. But look, at the end of the day, like, I want folks in Michigan to know who I am, right? And I'm gonna go and I'm gonna listen and I'm gonna learn. That's what doctors do. And then I'm gonna sit down and speak truth about what the challenges are and what we can do to solve them. My hope is, at the end of the day, people who are good people who want to see a politics that's not corrupted by corporations, they'll support us, right? And folks who want to take us out, they're going to come try and take us out. I don't back down. That's the thing you need to know about me, is like, I don't back down. I'm going to put myself right there. I will not give an inch, but I do believe that at the end of the day, the folks who I support and try to protect in our politics, they need a lot better than they've been giving. So I'm not going to back down, and we're going to keep going. We've got 4 months to go. We're going to go everywhere, talk to everybody, including people who listen to Hassan, including Joe Rogan. If you're listening, people who listen to Joe Rogan, even Bill Maher. Listen, I know you hate Muslims, but I'm willing to come on your show and have a conversation about why I hope that you don't hate Muslims, and also what it is about our system that has told you that you think it's okay to talk about one group of people without actually talking every day about the circumstances that are destroying people's lives. So let's have that conversation, Bill, if you're listening. But I'll go everywhere and talk to everyone. I don't play this whole platform politics bullshit, because I think we need to have a conversation that brings people together. And I want to offer that to anyone and everyone who's felt locked out of our politics.
I will say this as we let you go. I appreciate you. I appreciate the candor. I appreciate the authenticity and the integrity that you're showing up with. It is something that I think that the Democratic Party as a whole is really sorely missing in this moment, is the fact that people just don't want to be lied to anymore. They just want the truth. They don't want to be placated anymore. I'm not going to tell people that the midterm elections are going to save you. I'm not going to tell people that 2028 is going to save you. And so your final message to folks, Abdul, who have lost faith in the system, who are just getting a steady diet of cruelty, who are getting a steady diet of racism and misogyny, and feel like, what, the America that I thought that I knew, I don't, and I don't have faith, or I don't feel like I have the power to restore it to where I think that it should be. What is your message to those people?
We can have nice things, but the only way we can have nice things is if we do it together. So we've got to think past all the divides they tell us that we can't breach, of geography or race or faith or ethnicity or sexual orientation or gender identity, to grab together on the things that we can have, but we cannot have alone. And the way our politics works is to divide us into neat little packets and then fight over those packets. And I just don't think any of us sees the world that way. And it's left us with a political conversation that's divorced from the issues that we actually face in our lives. So, forgive me for not bending to the political class and the folks who tell us that you actually can't go talk to those people because we've decided that they're not worth talking to. And I just don't think, and I don't believe in a discourse that says that anybody's not worth talking to. So I want to have that conversation with everybody. And we've got an opportunity in this race. Look, when they start hitting you, it's because you're succeeding. At the end of the day, like when they start taking these shots at you, it's because they're afraid of you. So, I understand what I'm in for, but if it means that this work can unlock a political system for folks, if it means that I can put myself on the line or my reputation on the line so that I can defend people who have just been so locked out that they can't see a way forward in their own lives, then, so be it. Like that's what this work is for. That's what this work is about. That's what I signed up for when I trained to be a doctor. So I hope that if folks are excited about what they hear, if they feel like we can do different, if they feel like they want people who are serious about governing, going in and governing on their behalf rather than on the behalf of the big corporations and the gigantic industries and AIPAC, then I hope folks will support us. You can go to abdulforsenate.com, chip us off $5, $10 if you can. Sign up to volunteer. We are a human forward campaign. And so if you want to be a part of it, you're going to be joining thousands of people from all over the state and all over the country, frankly, who've signed on to this campaign to try and build something that is different. And then I'll tell you this, the work doesn't end when one person gets elected to a body of 100 people. That's when the work gets started. And governing is a thing we do together. And so my hope is that my seat can be the people's seat, and that we are using whatever platform we get out of this to be able to drive a conversation. Sometimes that'll mean I'm the only person in a quiet room saying the thing that needs to be said. And sometimes that'll mean that we're building coalition because people are finally opening their eyes to what's going on. But it starts with us deciding that we can win. And that's what we're doing here. And I hope that folks will support us. I'm honored to be able to share this space with you guys. Grateful for what you guys all do. I'm looking forward to when people come and attack me, say, oh, you went on Waj and Danielle's show. How could you? That's because I care about the people we're all talking to right now. And it's important for us to be able to engage in those conversations.
Thank you, Abdul, for your time. We kept you a bit longer, but you're a busy man. You're running for a Senate as a Democrat in the great state of Michigan. It's a very close race, folks. It's anyone's ball game. So if you like what you heard, go check out Abdul El-Sayed. Check out the website. And what, again, is the website, Abdul?
abdulforsenate.com.
It's very easy to remember, and don't knock your beard. It's subtle, it's elegant, masculine, gives off alpha male energy, and also very mainstream. And white aunties in Michigan find it to be very handsome.
Well, from your mouth to white auntie's ears, but you know, I mean, you dance with what you got at the end of the day. So I'm still waiting for it. I'm like, when is it going to fill in? All right, guys, appreciate you.
Care,
well.
Thank you. So you listen, for those who have asked us, how come you haven't brought on Mallory McMorrow or Haley Stevens? I personally, I'm not interested in Haley Stevens because Haley Stevens is bought and paid for by AIPAC. AIPAC literally took out Jewish American Senator Andy Levin, Danielle, and brought in Haley Stevens, who is just disgusting. I'm not interested in giving her a platform. But Mallory McMorrow has come on the left hook twice before, Danielle. I'll let you all know. I've invited her. I don't know if I shared this on your show. I was talking to someone else about this. As soon as Mallory made the announcement that she was running for Senate, quiet. Used to talk to me.
No, you told us last week.
Yeah, right. Quiet. And then the fact that Mallory McMorrow did this, I thought was gross. This is a disgusting hit job. This is my opinion. Comparing Hassan Piker to Nick Fuentes, a Nazi. The fact that they've gone all in, all these Democratic centrists have gone all in and attacked Abdul El-Sayed for this. Meanwhile, they haven't attacked Summer Lee, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ro Khanna. Alyssa Slotkin said that stupid quote. Where was she on Friday night, Danielle? Bill Maher. Did she challenge Bill Maher ever on a just open racism, anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim shit that he says literally this day, supportive of this war? Gavin Newsom, did he get any heat, Danielle, whatsoever for platforming in the most chummy way possible Charlie Kirk, Steve Bannon, and Ben Shapiro and agreeing with them? But then they go after Zoran Mamdani and Abdul El-Sayed. I'm sorry, Danielle. As you say, miss me with that bullshit, man. I can see it through a mile. I could see it a mile away. And I think, and I said this last week, it didn't work with Zoran. It only helped him. And I said last week with this hit job against Abdul El-Sayed, it's only going to help him. Donations to Abdul have gone way up, Danielle.
Look, here's the thing that I'm going to say. Anybody is welcome to come on this show that is not going to bring us bullshit talking points and is going to speak from a place of authenticity and integrity. And the fact is that we have spoken to folks in the past and they get a little money in their pockets, they get a little shine, and they all of a sudden start to speak and walk differently than when we first had them on and when you first engage in conversations with them. Those are people that, pardon my language, I don't like to fuck with. right? Because if you're going to talk to me one way and then talk out the other side of your mouth another way, then I know that you are not to be trusted. And I think that this time in our political movement in this country is asking us to really look at people in the face and say, you know what, are they truly aligned with my values? I no longer want to be settling for the crumbs. So if you're telling me this is the best that the Democratic Party has to offer, then I'm not going to fall for that bullshit, because that's how we keep getting stuck with the status quo. So you have to take a chance. You have to take an opportunity to do something different, right? One of the things that I couldn't stand, it was an interview that was done with a white woman during the Texas race, the primary race between Tallarico and Crockett. And a white woman said, you know, I really wanted to vote for Jasmine Crockett. I just don't think that she can win statewide. Then you're part of the fucking problem. Right? Because if you're not going to take a leap of faith, if you're not going to put your weight behind a candidate that you actually want, that you actually think can do something, and just continue to back the same status quo motherfuckers that you think can win, then don't be upset when you just get met with this same old. But if you want something different, then you're going to have to do something different, because doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. And that is how I feel about the establishment Democratic Party. I feel like we have been doing the same thing over and over again. We've been doing a rinse and repeat with the same talking points, with the same candidates, and expecting that at some point we're going to have a revolution in this country. You're not going to get a revolution without people that profess revolutionary ideas. And frankly, the fact that humanism, right? Caring about all people, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their ability, regardless of their gender identity, sexual orientation, race, etc., right? Should not be a radical thought. Nope. And the fact is that it's still considered radical. For us to sit here and say that, you know what, I am nuanced enough to understand the difference between Judaism and Zionism. I am nuanced enough to understand that, no, you can actually run a campaign without taking corporate money. You cannot do good with blood money, right? Yeah. At the end of the day. And so you can tell yourself a whole line of shit, right? And, oh, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. No, you're not. Because at the end of the day, you're always going to be tethered to who is holding the leash. And if you're going to decide that your master is going to be Meta or Anthropic or AIPAC, then that is who you are going to be doing the bidding of. And so I appreciate folks like Abdul El-Sayed, who says, you know what? I'm for the people. You don't like me, I'm not your cup of tea. That's okay. But I'm still going to be in it because I want to win this for the people of Michigan, because they deserve better than what they've been getting.
And you know what Abdul said is, it was a small line, but I appreciate it. He said it. He goes, we don't have to live like this. We can live better. We can imagine better. That's what we've always said in Democracy-ish, is that what the corporate America, the Epstein class, the establishment, they've even taken away our ability to dream. Even when we say, you know, what about universal childcare? No way. It's impossible. Oh, you're right. It's impossible. I'm sorry. I apologize. Let me work harder and make more money for the CEOs and put more vacation days on the table and not take them and get more sick. You're sorry. They've taken away our ability to even dream, Danielle. What about a female president? Never going to happen in America. You're right. You're never. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My bad. I'm 51% of the population if you're a woman and you're like, I can never be president, right? They even... You know, it's so insidious. It's not just taking away the reality, but taking away the inshallah. And they've robbed us of our inshallah. It is like a collective type, like a Jedi mind swap, right? But it's not even a Jedi mind swap. It's like a Sith Lord mind swap. It's like the bad guys of the Star Wars, for those who aren't nerdy like me, like Danielle, because Danielle was actually cool. She sits there, she goes, I just listen to you and Jared to make pop cultural references. I'm like, good, you do it together. You guys... Go forth. Make this
that over there.
Yeah, you go make the wrestling and Star Wars references. But that's what I feel like. It's literally, we have been put in this mental mind lock by the establishment where our dreams are paralyzed. Like our inshallah is robbed. We can't even imagine. Now they're straight up. Can you bring up that slide that we had of the Axios article that came out late last night?
Yep.
Look at this. For those who are joining us a bit late. Some Democrats are quietly debating a fraught question whether the party's best bet for winning back the presidency in 2028 is to nominate a man, perhaps a straight white Christian man. And Michelle Obama fuels such talk. They even got Michelle Obama saying that. it has to be a white guy. Case in point, Danielle. Case in point.
But I want to see, because people in the chat, were like, I can't believe Michelle Obama said X, Y, and Z.
You said in context.
And here, I just want to provide some context to this, is that Michelle Obama was inside of the political machine for how many years? How many years was she inside of the political machine? 8 as First Lady of the United States, but many, many years before that. And what she knows to be true about these United States, more so than probably anybody else, is just how racist this country actually is. And so it wasn't a like, well, don't try and find the new Barack, just go for the white man. It's like, right. America needs to decide what it is that they want. Because if you're not willing to vote for a Kamala Harris, if you're not willing to actually stand up and do something, as she said on the stage at the DNC, to make sure that there are candidates that are viable, that are not white, male, straight, and Christian, then that's going to be on you. And that's what she was saying. So you have to really understand that, like, she's not blinded to who America is. As a matter of fact, she experienced some of the most and continues to experience some of the most vile racism, right? That any other woman, any other Black woman has experienced, holding down that incredible title and position that she has had, and continues to carry herself with grace. But the thing is that America needs to demand better of America, right? That's the problem. And so you're going to consistently fall into this loop of white male Christian, purity tests, right? Because they're the only ones that can save us. That's white supremacy playing like a broken record in your head, right? That's the patriarchy playing like a broken record inside of your head. But until you demand more, you're not going to get any better. And that's what I believe that Michelle Obama was offering there.
Yeah, that's very good context. And folks, clearly, if Michelle Obama believed that, she would not have been first lady for 8 years and supported her husband Barack Obama running for office. But she also, to Danielle's point, is a very clear-eyed, now experienced American who knows full well and personally the true nature of this country. That in the year 2026. Even after being out of office for 10 years, Donald Trump decides, you know what, I have to score some political points. What should I do? I'm sinking in the ratings. Aha. Let's have an AI generated image of Michelle and Barack as apes. But I completely disagree with that Axios article. And I tweeted as much yesterday. And you saw Ibram, for those who missed or joining us late, for the first 30 minutes, we talked to Ibram Kendi, historian, author. He has a great new book called Chain of Ideas, about how the replacement theory, and specifically racism, is tied to authoritarianism. The origins of our authoritarian age. Danielle and I have talked about the replacement theory for years, a white supremacist conspiracy theory that is now unfortunately mainstream, that says that the Jews are part of this, the nerve center of an international cabal of Black people, brown people, LGBTQ, and women who are seeking to replace and dominate, let's be honest, white Christian men. And Ibram got most animated, if you paid attention, Danielle, at the last question, when we asked him about this Axios piece. And what he said something really, and I'm glad he said this. If you notice this diseased, lazy, just completely antiquated way of thinking. Well, the only way out is an old, white, straight Christian man. That's the only way out, right, Danielle? To win over this mythical, moderate Rust Belt translation white voter who thinks we're pedophiles. Let's go to the Rust Belt, not urban coffee shops. God forbid if you ever go to an urban coffee shop.
No, we just go to Rust Belt diners. No,
Rust Belt diner where you meet a real American, white, wearing a real hat, MAGA, right? Drinking real coffee, crappy coffee, right? It's all BS, right? But you see that thinking, and you saw Ibram make that really good point. That thinking has doomed the center-left movements in France. All right, Macron's party. Let's move to the right on immigration and security and economy. That'll work. Everyone's like, oh, you're weak-ass National Front. Let me just go over for National Front. Look at Keir Starmer. you know what? Let's not embrace the fact that most people believe Israel's committing a genocide. Let's not embrace economic populism. Let's not tax the rich. Let's just move a little bit to the right and agree with the Reform UK Party on the Muslims and the immigrants and national security. What's going to happen, Danielle? We're going to have friggin' Reform as the next leaders of UK that's like straight up neo-Nazi adjacent. The same thing in the United States of America. What do the people want? Oh, overwhelmingly, the people want to tax billionaires. Can't do that. Overwhelmingly, people do not want AI data centers. Let's get more AI data centers. Overwhelmingly, people do not want our money to go to Israel. Let's give Israel everything it wants. Overwhelmingly, people are saying, hey, genocide is bad. We can't even use the word genocide. As of last week, Andy Bashir. Overwhelmingly now, the majority of Americans are saying, we don't need ICE. Let's reform ICE and rein in ICE. You know, overwhelmingly, people are saying we need a politics of transformation. Let's go make love to Liz Cheney. What do you think is going to happen, Daniel?
I mean, what's going to happen is that we're going to end up further to the right than we have ever been. We keep saying, what are the possibilities of us having an openly Nazi president? Very high, right? Because we have the quote unquote, resistance party, which we don't actually have, doesn't resist a goddamn thing. All they do is continue to throw those with progressive voices underneath the bus. And so, I am of the mindset that like this two-party system shit does not work. Because if one party turns into an extremist white supremacist welcoming committee, and then the other one is just like, well, maybe they're not that bad. Let's have them on our podcast and let's have them on stage and let's give them more platform and more space than they give us. Then what the fuck do we think is going to happen? Right. So, the people have to push back and I can continue to say and demand better. Right. You can't do this rinse and repeat bullshit and think that we're going to have the people or the person that we need in order to fight back against this extremism. It's not going to happen with these milquetoast motherfuckers like Gavin Newsom, who on one day want to say that ICE is like the Gestapo and slave patrol. And then the next day it's just like, ooh, I went a little bit too far. Say one day, we need to stop funding Israel in the way that we do without regulation. And then on another day, say, ooh, I think I may have gone too far, depending on who he's talking to and who is giving him money that day. So, folks.
And Danielle, this poll just came out, proves our point. Mellman Group poll. A majority of Jewish American voters disapprove of the war, 55%. Who approves? 32%. So who are you supporting or who are you representing when you're a Democrat and saying like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, essentially, hey, we like this war, but you should have included us in on it. You're representing yourself. You're representing your corporate donors who are completely separated and removed from the majority of people who want a transformational politics that reforms and changes the corrupt institutions that are the architects of their misery, who have literally the boot on their neck as their CEOs are making records amount of money and people are grinding themselves into dust, working 2 jobs just to stay broke, and they still don't get healthcare, Danielle. I see an anger rising, Danielle. Oh, I said this yesterday on Don's show. I had a brief few moments. I was on Don, Jim, Joanne Reed, and Jim Acosta were doing the 3-headed beast tackling of the No Kings rally. And it was really interesting. If we had a little bit of more time, we could have gone into it. But I mentioned to Don and Jim and Joy about what we talk about, that aunties are being radicalized in real time. And Tucker Carlson is moving to the left of the Democratic Party when it comes to Israel, AI. Forever wars, AI. Don said, preach, watch, preach. Joy said, yup, just today in my WhatsApp group, another auntie. And folks, if you're not paying attention, these Tucker Carlsons and Steve Bannons and Marjorie Taylor Greens and Candace Owens, they're just waiting in the wings. They're going to see MAGA collapse. They're going to see Donald Trump collapse. Those people aren't just going to go to the Democrats if the Democrats aren't selling them what they want to hear, right? They're going to go to the America First movement. And that America First movement, Danielle, is going to gather up all these people who are anti-war, anti-AI, anti-elites, and then they're going to Trojan horse their racism through these talking points. And Democrats will be like, I think we need a centrist white straight male who takes money from AI. That'll be the way we win. We can never have someone who's woke.
look, it's not too far off. Like, we know that is what's happening. We know what they want to do in midterms. We know what they want to do in 2028. And I just have to tell you, like, you know, Americans, unfortunately, are low information, low education voters. So if you hear one person say one thing that you like on a Monday, it doesn't you're not checking back in on a Tuesday or a Wednesday to see what else it is that they've said, because they said the one thing that you like that resonated with you. So then, okay, they must be good. No one is actually doing the legwork and the deep dive and getting the information that they need. And what does the American First movement know? They fucking know that. It's the same thing that the MAGA movement knew, right?
United States of Amnesia.
When we're talking about, you know, the fact that 54% of Americans are comprehending and have a literacy rate of a 6th grader, folks, like, this is the shit that we're talking about. There is no nuance. There is no critical thinking. And there's a reason why they got that from our public education systems. There's a reason why they also attack colleges and academics when they're coming in with their authoritarianism, because they know that if you keep people, right, just their heads on a swivel, just desperate to be able to cover their basic needs, they don't have the time, they don't have the energy to dream, and they don't have the time or the energy to push back either, or to do the legwork to figure out if you're fucking lying to them or not. That's what we're here for, to try and connect the dots and say, these people are lying to you. A broken racist clock can be right twice a day, but the rest of the day, it's absolutely wrong, bonkers, not good. So they can say something that is like, oh yeah, you're right. You know, what does it mean to have a right to exist? Don't we all have a right to exist? Sure. But all the other days, in all the other hours of the day, they say some racist, anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, transphobic bullshit. And you have to be able to weed through that, work through the weeds on that.
Daniel, to your point, that same clip where Tucker Carlson took on the editor-in-chief of The Economist and asked the question that Democrats and corporate media should have asked about Israel's right to exist. What do you mean by right to exist? In that same answer of that same clip, remember, he mocks Eastern civilizations.
Tell them what they quickly
right?
Tell them what he
Remember
said.
that he goes, well, Eastern civilizations, they don't value life like Western civilizations. Just casually just drops it in. And I told
and
Don,
no pushback from the Economist editor. What do you mean?
You
by
and me
that?
are watching. They're like, boom, right there. And then what people don't realize, and I mentioned this also to your point, to Joy and Don, in my analysis, is that aunties and young people, they get what I call WhatsApp news bites. They get these small clips of 46 seconds. Mehdi and myself and you and Joy are the masochists who watch the entire clip. And so they get these small little nuggets and they're like, this Candace Owens, this Tucker Carlson's coming around. Have you heard of this young, charming man by the name of Nick Fuentes? And I'm like, the Nazi? He can't be a Nazi. He said this really one good thing. Did you watch 3 minutes later when he's saying Nazi stuff? Oh, I didn't watch that.
Or incel shit, or that having sex with the woman is gay, and that like women shouldn't have the right to vote. Did you hear that part? No, you got the 30 to 60 second bite.
We live in the United States of amnesia, folks. Americans have the attention spans of gnats on meth. And like Danielle said, the right wing figured this out. You repeat something again and again and again and again, 24/7. You make it. You turn on DEFCON, take it all the way to 1 or 2. Threat, fight, flight. That's why you have so many Americans saying, "I have no money, but the trans are coming. Transgender people, And then what about transgender people now? Oh, we forgot about it. Remember? 1 month, Somalis. Where are the Somalis now, Danielle? Remember that? Nonstop. Haitians before that. Haitians. Haitians. Yes, gone. Look at that. Just like that. Poof, gone. And so if a Tucker Carlson, y'all aren't paying attention, a Tucker Carlson with his egregious history of racism, the fact that he has been on every single corporate cable news network and been fired for it, if he runs for office, I'm telling y'all, Americans will forget. We forget what happened last week. And this is why Danielle and I, when people say this, I know we got to go, but why are we critical of the modern Democratic Party? Why are we critical of modern Democratic officials who are not standing up for the people, not taking on corporate money? Is because we know that if these people are put in office, it will lead to your first Nazi president by 2032. This will be it's like the wheel goes round and round, Danielle. It's going to be Groundhog's Day, and they're going to keep telling us, going back full circle, this is the best you can ever hope for. This is the best it'll ever be. It'll be me taking money from AIPAC and AI and crypto, or it'll be the Nazi. Who do you want, me or the Nazi? You're going to choose me. That's the only choice you have. And for the first time, Danielle, you're seeing a majority of Americans saying, nah, I want something different.
Yeah, maybe I don't want to eat shit and then say to you it tastes like steak, you know, because it just tastes like shit.
Shit. Even with shit toppings.
Even
it's still
with shit toppings, it's still shit. All right, folks, that was our super jam-packed democracy-ish. For those that came in late, I really do hope that you watch the replay. If for those folks that are on our Substack, on the Left Hook and the Damn Digest, that you will, watch from the beginning. The conversation with Ibram, Kendi, and the conversation with Abdul El-Sayed were fantastic. They were fire, and they're worth a watch. So we will be back on Wednesday for our midweek check-in on Substack. So do make sure that you check us out there. And then Friday, once again, for Democracy-ish. We appreciate you folks for hanging in with us. Do make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you do not have the ability to become a paid subscriber, look.
What happened? I lost you.
Specials.
Oh, no.
Sorry, did I go?
Yeah.
Both of us are running specials on our Substacks for another day. For one more day, 20% off. So do make sure to check that out. Waj, quickly, where else are you going to be today?
In 1 minute, Mike Madrid's coming on talking about the collapse of the GOP and looking at all the latest poll numbers. At 2:30, we got Jack, who's coming on at 3 p.m. Ezra Levin of Indivisible to do an audit of No Kings 3. And at 4, we have Evie Phillips Staley, who is a progressive Democrat who is running and who, just like Abdul El-Sayed, has been attacked by centrist Democrats for associating with Hassan Piker.
All right, folks, and I'm back at 5 p.m. Eastern with the Danielle Moody Show. Thank you all for the super stickers and super thanks and becoming members of the Danielle Moody channel. It goes a long way. This is independent media. It is people-powered, and we can't do it without you. Now, go head over to the Left Hook and watch Waj in about 45 seconds. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And please, oh, please, don't be a fascist.